Well, talk about like anything to get into the movies. I really wanted to get into the movies, so I can be self-righteous and sit here, oh yeah, there are people that will do anything to, but I wanted to be in the movies. When I moved to Chicago, one of my things, and I worked at Second City, and I told my agent at the time, and they were my agent. I don't know when, but I instructed them. That's why I instructed them. I want to be in the movies. Make sure I get into film. So I did 16 Candles and I did Breakfast Club. Then Weird Science came up. And John said, well, I want to put you in it. There was really nothing in the film. So John said, there's this bar, we could have the owner be this. And then I think I pitched the idea of him being Greek. And then, much to my family's chagrin, my mother's particularly, only because I used the big M word, which is a Greek swear word.
What's a beautiful bride like you doing with a malaka like this, huh?
And malaka in Greek parlance means jagoff or masturbator. There, I said it. And my mother said, why would you use such a word? Why would you do that? The Greek people, their language is so, the Greeks, democracy and hundreds of years, So. Anyway, Greeks are very, very proud people.
You being a Chicago actor, you get cast from Chicago by John and flown out here. What was that?
No, I had to walk out here.
Harsh.
They made me walk without shoes. Yeah, I got flown out here and put up.
Listening to this blues music reminds me of my own trials and tribulations as a young guy.
I'll never forget the day I realized that the Beatles multi-tracked. And I was really, really, really mad at them. This is Sgt. Pepper. I said, how can Paul McCartney sing with himself and John Lennon sing with himself? And wait a minute, he's playing drums, or he's playing guitar and piano on this song? And I was like really pissed off for 2 days. And then I realized, holy moly, that is brilliant. And there's a certain disbelief. Yeah, not all films in Chicago were shot in Chicago. Well, okay. Long way of saying we shot that one sequence in Weird Science at a soundstage here in, we're in Hollywood right now, ladies and gentlemen, at a soundstage at Universal, just right over here. Right over here. And I've never seen, it was the first time for me to be on a soundstage with lots of extras, these women hoisting beers and the place was just filled with extras. And I had already looped and done stuff at Breakfast Club. I had already done stuff at the Universal for Breakfast Club. So I'd already been familiar with LA, but it was the first time I think I'd ever worked on a soundstage here. And also just shooting with all those wonderful actors.
She's into malakas, Dino.
Did Marilyn Vance do the wardrobe for that? Was it Marilyn? Well, Marilyn Vance dressed me like that. She's a good friend and also did my independent movie, so my short film, so I love Marilyn. But don't ever put me in that hat again. I think the one thing that Kelly had was, in the movie at least, is she exudes this sort of absolute, what does Carl Jung call it? There's the female animus, anima. Anima? The female, not animus, but the female sort of...
Power?
Yeah, and there's sort of something very straight and no nonsense about her.
Don't fret me, Al. You're out of shape. I'll kick your ass.
She had the inside track on the part. I mean, there was this sort of a thing about her that made her kind of very confident. You look at a lot of stuff, for example, in the 80s, in teen comedies, there are lots of, there's the boom and then there's the echo. The boom is the original and the echo is the knockoff. And there are lots of knockoffs. There are lots of knockoffs. And John was definitely a boom. He was an original. And John was not afraid to be a boom, to be an original, requires a lot of courage, spirit, ego, talent, and business acumen too, because John had a really good business team around him. That said, he also, I think, embodied a lot of he didn't want to play ball. And I think what happens with a lot of the Echo people is that they're willing to do anything to make it happen. So, you know, you want to cut my film up into 50 pieces and redo it. But John was sort of uncompromising in that way. So he wanted to succeed, but on his terms. I don't know enough about the whole John Hughes story, but what I got the feeling is that Hollywood and he just sort of at some point had a wrenching apart. And that's why he moved back to the Midwest and sort of got out of it. And, you know, it's not like he didn't make a pretty penny, but as we all know, money isn't everything. When you talk to me about these things, I'm not entirely unemotional about it. It really pushes a lot of emotional buttons, which I tend to be an emotional creature. But I think my single biggest sadness is that John isn't around to sort of see it all kind of work its way out into the society. Because I think, for better mostly, his films have affected this culture in a good way. So.